After you've chosen a design software, we need to prepare the design for the prototyping process. Sometimes this means just working with downloaded files and preparing them for 3D printing. Other times we're going to be designing molds, fixtures, and so on. Actually, designing the parts is not in the scope of this course. However, let's take a look at working with a file and getting it ready to be built. I'm using SOLIDWORKS in this step. However, most 3D CAD software packages will have a similar workflow. I'm going to go ahead and click on File, Open, and you can see inside of here I've got the SOLIDWORKS file, which I've already opened up. I have a step file version of that same part, and then I have an STL file. So I'm going to include all three of these, but I'm going to be opening the step file in this case. And when I do, it's going to go through and process that file. And I also just want to point out while we're here is I've just included a few different images of that part so you know what we're going to be working with. Go ahead and click on Step and click on Open. Inside of SOLIDWORKS, this is going to be creating that model. This would be similar to something you might download off the internet. Now, I created this file originally inside of SOLIDWORKS, but I'm including just the step file version of it to give you the workflow of downloading a file maybe off the internet or working with a file that maybe you got from a different source. Now, when you open up a file like this, it's going to ask you, do you want to run a diagnostics on it? And generally, you do want to run it, so click on Yes. In this case, it's going to find one face that's faulty. And sometimes when you're bringing in files like this, you're going to have a couple issues you might have to work through. That's totally normal. Don't feel worried about that. Click on that face, scroll down to the bottom and click on Attempt to Heal All. That should fix it up real well here. There's no gaps. And when you have that all fixed up, go ahead and click on OK. And as far as FeatureWorks, if you wanted to take this file here and start working on it, changing it around to do something else, you might want to use the FeatureWorks version inside of SOLIDWORKS to help you do that. In this case, I don't, so I'm going to click on No. But like I said, I want to point it out that that was available. Now, I'm looking at here a couple different options for viewing it, and I want to make sure that I'm showing the edges in this case so I can spin that around, see my part. And this is what we're going to be using on the 3D printer and looking at several different methods for prototyping, including resin casting, 3D printing, and a couple other processes as far as how we're going to work with this file. So real neat way to bring this in. Now, once I have this inside of SOLIDWORKS or any other CAD software out there, I want to save it out for the individual processes that it's going to be going to. So first things first is going to be a 3D printing process. So I want to save this as an STL format. So come up here to File, click on Save As, and I don't want to save it again as a regular SOLIDWORKS file. I want to come down here to Save As Type, click on this drop down, and come down here to STL. Click on STL, and you have some options here. Click on Options. Now I can save it as either inches or millimeters. Millimeter seems to work best for this. You can adjust the deviation as well as the angle. The tolerance here, I find, or a lot of different service providers, if you're sending this out to a company to print it for you, they're actually going to give you this information you want to put in here. But I find 5/10 of an inch, or 5/10,000ths of an inch, so it's 0.0005, works really well. And over here with 5 degrees. So those are kind of my base starting points I want to put in. So I've got a 5-degree angle. I've got 5/10,000ths, so 0.0005. Set up as custom, and then click on OK. And that will save that as our defaults for working with STL files. And when you're happy with that, go ahead and click on Save. It's going to say I already have a file in there, which I do. Go ahead and replace it, and click on Yes. So that just saved that out. Now I can take that file into 3D printing software and go ahead and start working with it. Now, if I want to save this for a machining process or a molding process and build a mold around it, I would prefer to use the step file format or the native SOLIDWORKS file format. So in that case, I already have a step file format, but I can save that again. So I just want to go through that. So click on File, Save As, and under Save As Type, go ahead and click on, I can either choose one of the different variations of the step format, which is the 203 or the 214. I choose 214 most of the time because that includes the color. But you also have the option for going to IGES or any of these other formats that might be required. Say if you're sending it to a machine shop where they're building a mold for it, a lot of times you're going to be asking for maybe an IGES file format. So SOLIDWORKS can export most of these file types. A lot of the other software you might be using can do something very similar. So just keep that in mind. I already have it saved as a step file, so I'm just going to cancel out, but just want to point out that that was available. There are many different pathways for designing and building parts. As for prototyping, we want to design items that can be built correctly with the tools and processes that we choose.